Hi again, this is Vicki Armour-Hileman back with part 3 of Models of Mission. In part 1 of this project, we learned that theologians think mission is in crisis. One of the causes of the crisis is that aspects of our inherited models of mission are out of sync with ideas and values that have been developing for the last few generations. David Bosch, Stan Nussbaum, Maryknoll Father John Civilon, and many other theologians have examined some of the emerging paradigms of mission in our times. Here are a few of them. First, the movement from development to integral human development. The development activities we spent decades of work and billions of dollars on in both secular and religious organizations have largely failed to produce the just society we longed for. Some actually did more harm than good, creating chronic dependence instead of enhanced local capacity. Not only that, but missioners are often chosen for their desire to serve, which does not always translate to them having the skills needed for complex, cross cultural development work. Awareness of these problems has led to what many now call integral human development, which expands ideas of development to include all aspects of life, including the need for human connection, meaning, and community. Further, there is recognition that agency and control over one's own life, as well as the ability to make a contribution in the world, are important human needs. Most mission programs, including MKLM, have begun embracing integral human development and capacity building. Often, though, we are mid transition, still having some ministries that are a confusing mix of old and new models without clear guidelines that set parameters. Another movement is from conversion to ecumenism and interfaith cooperation. Although development was a primary mission activity in the last era, conversion efforts also continued. As ideas started to shift, theologies of contextualization and enculturation emerged, recognizing the ways God was already present in other cultures and traditions. As these ideas have evolved, the ideal further shifted to include not only dialogue and mutual understanding, but also cooperation among people of different traditions, a vision of a united humanity working together. That has sometimes led to new models of mission, such as opening Catholic organizations to those who are not Catholic. Some, like Jesuit volunteers, create a Catholic centered approach that others can join as long as they feel attracted to Catholic teaching. Others, like Focolari, create options for collaborators to work with the organization in a kind of associate role. Still others achieve interfaith cooperation by joining a larger interfaith coalition or joining with a specific partner from another tradition to do a particular task together. A third movement has been from the idea of service to the idea of accompaniment. The word service is still prominent in mission organizations, but it is fraught in liberal circles, where it has often been replaced by the ideal of accompaniment. Lutheran theologian James Bangzund describes accompaniment as a walking together that practices interdependence and mutuality. The conversation is no longer between a giver and a receiver, but between churches, all of which have gifts to give and to receive. Accompaniment thus emphasizes relationship before resources. As you can see, accompaniment is not about individuals accompanying people in the global south. Fundamentally, it is supposed to be a relationship between local churches, enabling each to give from its strengths. While accompaniment is attractive as a model, sometimes it is interpreted as just being, and can lead missioners to meandering from activity to activity. Unfortunately, that is also an expression of power and privilege in a world where most people have to work hard all day to make a living. Its pitfalls are summed up well in the New Yorker cartoon where one person shovels snow while the other sings. The caption is, "I said I'd accompany you. I never said I'd help." So, this is a value we are still exploring. A fourth movement has been from individualism to community. Fierce individualism was appreciated in the Enlightenment and in the centuries that came after it. We now know, however, that taken to an extreme, individualism can lead to a sense of alienation, isolation, and despair. Therefore, the romanticized image of the cowboy missioner riding off to a remote village has been replaced by a renewed interest in team, partnership, and community. That takes many forms, from intentional communities many shorter term programs place new missioners in, to setting up ongoing partnerships requiring generalist skills so that new missioners step into an ongoing ministry. Many groups also set up a semi porous local community based on more of a Catholic worker model, where on the ground, missioners and local people join together in a single community to pray, plan, and support one another. A fifth movement has been from the idea of the mission of the church to the mission of God, Missio Dei. Bosch, John Civilon, and others point out that we used to talk about mission as if it belonged to the church. But increasingly, we understand that mission is God's and the church participates in it. This concept of Missio Dei is rooted in Trinitarian theology, an understanding of God as simultaneously unified and in relationship, the divine expressing itself through a continual movement outward in love. This shift allows us to see mission as bigger than the church, as encompassing all humanity, and putting relationship building at the center. A sixth and final movement is from mission as a one-way street to mutuality. In some ways, this shift encompasses all the others. As late as the 1980s, when I arrived at Maryknoll, our orientation program taught a motto by Bishop James E. Walsh. "The task of the missionary is to go to a place where he is not wanted but needed, and to remain until he is not needed but wanted." In our own time, we see the troubling assumption here that the missioner has all the agency and all the wisdom. Receiving communities were viewed as children who must be guided by missioners like a loving parent who overrides the child's desires for their own good. But especially since the advent of liberation theology, there has been growing recognition that you can't build a world of justice without paying attention to dynamics of power. And to address the power difference, you need to set up activities where both cultures give and receive. Figuring out practical ways to do this is not easy, and a variety of models are used. Some organizations invite people from other countries to join them. Others are multinational, having local chapters around the world, and a leadership team that represents those different local teams. Still others find smaller ways for people in receiving communities to share their gifts, leadership, news of concerns, or stories back to the communities missioners come from. The ultimate expression of mutuality would be an understanding that we genuinely need one another. We are a single, interdependent humanity on a fragile planet, and as COVID-19 has painfully made clear, no culture is invulnerable or has all the answers. Religious and mission organizations often achieve that vision through formal or informal partnerships or coalitions between different organizations from different parts of the world. Secular international organizations and universities are probably ahead of most religious organizations in this area, having a variety of international teams or coalitions or even think tanks to bring people together from different backgrounds to work on issues of global significance, from scientific breakthroughs to problems like climate change. As you can see, issues of mutuality, interdependence, and relationship underlie several of these cognitive shifts. On the one hand, these emerging values are already in MKLM's vision and value documents. On the other hand, these values may be undermined by some of the practices we are used to and the habits we have inherited from mission models that preceded us. Our task then is to evaluate whether our current model, including the aspects of it that we have inherited from other times, fully embraces our sense of what God is calling us to for the future. That may mean being open to fundamental changes in who the missioner is, who is mission to, what activities missioners engage in, and how we are structured. As David Bosch pointed out, if we are to get through this crisis and give mission a future, we need to boldly and imaginatively create new ways of doing mission that enable us to live out our emerging values to the fullest.